Algebra 2, set 101, percent markups. Okay, so this problem has to do with buying and selling, or actually, buying and selling and the markups that are involved. So the first situation, we have a factory and the store owner is purchasing something, in this case a shirt, from the factory. Then that store owner goes to the store and he sells the same shirt to the customer. So when the store owner buys the shirt, he pays a certain amount. In this case, he paid $40. And then he's going to mark it up when he sells it in his store. So the customer is going to pay more. The customer will pay $50. So we call that a markup. And in this case, the markup was $10. So when we talk about these two purchases, the first one is called the purchase price and the second one is called the selling price. That's key. You're going to have to remember that for these problems. The purchase price is how much it was purchased for from the factory. The selling price is how much the store owner is selling it to the customer. So when we talk about markup, there are two different ways to look at the markup. The store owner is going to say that he only marked up the shirt 20%. And the way that he got that was $10 is 20% of 50. So he's actually taking the selling price and finding the percentage that 10 is. So 10 is 20% of the selling price. But the customer is going to say, no, you marked it up more than that. The markup was 25% because $10 is 25% of 40. So he's looking at how much the store owner paid for it, and he's saying you marked it up 25%. So when you do these problems, you're going to have to pay attention to whether it's the selling price or whether it's the purchase price. And the problems will always tell you. So you just have to be aware that you're dealing with percentage of the purchase price or percentage of the selling price that the markup is. So all of these equations are going to be exactly the same. It's going to be the selling price is the purchase price plus the markup. So really simply, it's going to be S equals P plus M. And that's the only equation that you're going to need. The selling price is the purchase price plus the markup. Now, in these problems, we're using rates instead of percents. That basically just means that we're using decimals. So 20% is 0.2, 415% is 4.15, and 2% would be 0.02. So we're using the red ones. We're using the decimals. So let's do an example. The selling price was $48. If the markup was 20% of the purchase price, what was the purchase price and what was the markup? So we're going to start with our equation. S equals P plus M. Selling is the purchase plus the markup. And we know that the selling price was $48. And then we know that the markup was 20% of the purchase price. So 20% of P equals M. So 0.2p is the same as m. And we're solving for p. So 48 is equal to 1.2p. Divide both sides by 1.2 and we get that the purchase price was $40. To find the markup, there are a couple of ways that you can do it. You can plug it back into the equation. M equals 0.2p. So it's 0.2 times 40, which is $8. You could also just look at the selling price and see that the selling price was 48 and the purchase price was 40, so the markup was $8. Let's do another example. The purchase price of the item was $1,800. If the markup was 40% of the selling price, what was the selling price? So we'll start with our equation, S equals P plus M, and we can see that P was $1,800 and M was 40% of the selling price, so 0.4S. We just plug those in. S is 1,800 plus 0.4S. We'll subtract 0.4S from both sides, so we get 0.6S equals 1,800, and 6/10 goes into 1,800 3,000 times. So the selling price was 3,000. If the selling price was 3,000, then We can figure out the markup by subtracting the purchase price and the purchase price, and we end up getting a markup of $1,200. Okay, next example, the sports car retailed for $10,368. Now, retail is another word for selling price. So anytime you see the word retail, that means the selling price. The sports car retailed for $10,368. What was the purchase price if the car had been marked up 8% of the purchase price? So we start with S equals P plus M. The selling price was $10,368. The markup had been 8% of the purchase price, so 0.08 P. Plug those in, and we get 10,368 equals 1.08 P. Divide by 1.08, and we get P is equal to $9,600. To find the markup, we'll just subtract it from the selling price. So 10,368 subtract 9,600, we get the markup to be $768.